another jewel in bowling's triple crown, the PBA National Championship. So let's meet our outstanding field of 5 finalists. The 5th seed is looking to improve on his 4th place finish last year from Bel Air, Maryland, Tim Criss. Battling him in the opening match, an ABC Masters champion from Wichita, Rick Steelsmith. Our 3rd seed was the 1994 PBA Player of the Year. They cheer for him in that manner from Clermont, Florida, Norm Duke. The semifinal match features a PBA Hall of Famer seeking back-to-back titles from Las Vegas, Wayne Webb. And our tournament leader owns 17 titles, a very popular man from Atlanta, Brian Voss. So Nelson, big money for a major event.
Great tournament, Chris, 30,000 on top. Actually, the guy in the 5th place has the most to win. He hasn't won a PBA title. I think for the top 3 players, winning this, a 3-year exemption, is the most important thing. Now we're ready for Rick Steelsmith and Tim Criss.
Capacity crowd watching along with you. On the left of your screen, that's Steelsmith. Criss will bowl first. Qualified 5th, 30 years old, Bel Air, 13th year of pro. 8 regional titles, but he wants his first national today. Well, all but the 2-pin.
Setting up the championship pair, Chris, 25-26 here at Ducat's Imperial Lane, 60-lane bowling center. We've used this championship pair for years to decide many, many moments in the sport of bowling. And this year, the PBA has put out the most demanding condition I've seen in the history of this tournament. Very tough.
For Tim Criss of Bel Air, Maryland, he marks with a spare. All-American collegiate bowler. As an individual and on the All-American Wichita State team, he attended Vincennes University for 2 years. Quite a guy, Rick Steelsmith. Ten-pin for the man who was sidelined a year and a half, a torn rotator cuff, but he succumbed and he's back at it, though.
Well, Chris, I think he had more potential of any college player I've ever seen come out. He won the Masters as an amateur, the ABC American Bowling Congress Masters in '87. He's just been plagued by injuries, and I think he's finally coming around this year.
So we have an all-even match in our first game of the PBA National Championship. One of the majors, and very much sought after. Bo, you won here in Toledo.
Won in 1970, a few years back, Chris. And the line was a little bit different then. I played a shot right about the 2nd arrow, where today the players are way over in this area, and they're playing a shot that rolls right between the 3rd and 4th arrows. A much bigger hook than back in the old lacquer lane days.
Goodness sakes, 5, 4, 6, 7, 9, 10.
And to take that one step farther, Chris, you can see him coming through, and the left lane is always hooked more. These are wood lanes the last 35 feet. Steelsmith on lane 25 actually makes a good shot, but he did not have his feet positioned far enough left to adjust for the more break.
Disappointing open frame for Rick Steelsmith with the impossible. 4, 6, 9, 10. Well, now, here is Tim Criss. Uses about 7/8 of the approach on the right line this time. Bo, with a first strike in a game, does that relieve a lot of the pressure?
I think so for Tim. He's been out here a number of years, has never won a national title, as you said, 8 regional titles, but that's a lot different than winning a major championship. However, he's been in the championship round on ESPN earlier in the year, so he feels quite comfortable, although he did lose to Steelsmith in that tournament, the Oregon Open.
Big double and a 27-pin lead, so Rick Steelsmith now knows what he has to do. Meanwhile, Norm Duke is off to our right, warming up because he will meet the winner of this first game. a smooth release at the line. However,
Steelsmith is the complete package, but right now he's not playing the lanes properly. He's trying to get a little fallback. That means he's trying to get the ball to skid down the center. And this week, you get no help from the center of the lane. You have to miss to the right if you're going to miss at all. Rick is going to have to give it a little more room.
in match play, Rick was 14-9-1, whereas Tim Criss was 13-11. And during that play, Tim Criss and Rick had a 224 to 220 match. Tim winning it.
Steelsmith with a queried look on his face, and he's really trying to figure out what to do. He had an hour's practice, but he never quite found what I call the trick on this pair. And he has to get the ball out to a break point about the 10th board, 40 or 45 feet down the line. That's the old wood part of the lane to get the ball to work in the pocket. Right there.
The mighty tumble of the 10 pins. We're in Toledo, and spanning this section of Toledo's Maumee River is the Martin Luther King Bridge. Here at Imperial Lanes, they're just standing room only, Bo, and that's the case every year as they begin to look now toward Tim Criss.
Well, Criss, I think, is zeroed on the championship here at Criss. We've talked so much about how to adjust the lanes. The right-hand lane a little bit tighter, the left-hand lane hooking more. It looks like Steelsmith got zeroed on the left-hand lane. It's up to him to make an adjustment on the right. And really, no lead is sacred in this championship form on these tough lanes. Guys go along and get 3 or 4 strikes, and they get a 6 count, and with a very difficult spare. So let's see what happens.
Hook up. Oh, come on.
Well, that was 4 pins.
That was an unusual 4-pin. As you see Criss talking to himself, the 5-pin actually shot over the top of the 4-pin. As Criss makes an ideal shot on the right-hand lane, then watch the pin action. The center of the 5-pin, boom, shoots right behind the 4. That won't happen. 1 in 20.
Tim is 30 years of age, and Rick is 32. And Tim is mic'd. There, of course, is Tim's wife, Cherie, a legal secretary, and now working in the PBA office and helping all of us down the line. All right. 26-pin lead.
Key shot early in the match for Steelsmith. It looks like he's zeroed on the left-hand lane. He has to make up his mind to move a little to the right on lane 26 and trust his shot. He trails by 26, can cut the lead of Criss's down to 16 with a strike.
All but a 10.
Super shot, and just was not rewarded. Look at this form, solid at the line, discipline. Goes out to what we saw, the 6th or 7th board on the lane, the break point. Solid 10, tough break.
Cross lane now. Very nice. Well, next Saturday at 1, you hear that? 1 o'clock, not 3, 12 Central on ABC's Professional Bowlers Tour. It's our first arena bowling event of the year, the flagship open from exciting Erie, Pennsylvania. Erie native Bob Learn Jr. bowled a 300 game last year and won this event. So tune in for excitement next Saturday at a different time, special time, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 Central, right here on ABC. Cutting the lead to... Not cutting the lead, needs another strike to get it down to 16. But Tim Criss has a strike working for him as he shoots in the 6th frame. Increasing his lead again. Winner of the match to meet Norm Duke and then we'll have Wayne Webb, and then the tournament leader, Brian Voss.
Well, so far, Tim Criss has made 5 consecutive superb shots. Strikes in the second and third frames, a ripping 4 in the fourth, and followed up with another double in the fifth and sixth. You don't see a player make that many good shots very often on this demanding condition.
Colossal break.
Boy, it doesn't take much to get out of the pocket here. He gets just a pinch soft with it, drives up, and has the 4-7-10 standing momentarily. Terrific break. The 6 knocks out the 10. He'll have an easy spare and maintain his lead of 34 pins through 7.
We're in Toledo, and we'd like to introduce you to a little cutie critter who seems awfully anxious about tomorrow. Happy Easter to all of you. Happy holidays. We're inside Imperial Lanes, site of this year and another PBA National Championship. Rick Steelsmith needs to come from behind. He has a strike up, trailing by 34, shooting in the 7th frame. Wanted to get back to 24. To give you an idea of the conditions this week for the huge field in the PBA National, 600 bowling balls were drilled this week. 600. All right, Bo.
Thank you, Chris. With me, Norm Duke. And Norm, and in my opinion, you're one of the great bowlers of the past decade. However, it's been over 2 years since you won a PBA tournament. There's got to be some story behind that, pal.
Well, you know, I sometimes feel like I'm a great bowler, but I've yet to achieve greatness in this sport. I'm learning every day, and by virtue of not winning 2 years in a row, I tell you, the month goes by, every month I get more yearning to start winning again. So.
How about today?
Boy, I sure would like to. This is my dream, the one-legged Triple Crown.
All right, Chris, he'll be up in the next match. Back to you.
I guess he will. Former Player of the Year. So for Steelsmith, a strike in the 8th frame, and up quickly is Tim Criss, spare working, shooting in the 8th. Another 4-pin.
To show how quick a turnaround a player can have in the PBA, as you see him leave a 4-pin here in the 9th frame, and he'll maintain his lead of 33 pins. You take Tim Criss, had a high game of 297, a low of 146, a 151 pin differential. So anything can happen out here at any time.
You know, Tuesday night on ABC, Dylan McDermott stars in the show that critics and audiences are raving about, The Practice. Watch an all-new episode of The Practice, Tuesday at 10, 9 Central, on ABC.
Criss, as he comes up in the 9th frame, going at a 2:16 pace. His opponent, Rick Steelsmith, a possible 2:13.
Sliding by. Ooh, 2, 4, 8, 10.
Well, we see a lot of these with this lane condition, and we call that the bucket with a man in motion. As you see Criss to the extreme left side of the approach, he's playing a shot between the 3rd and 4th arrows and gets it too wide. And he leaves the 2, 4, 8, 10. There's 2 possibilities to look at here. Do you want to get the 9 count, stay close in count, or you want to take a whack at shooting over it, get the 2, 4, and hoping one of the pins will bounce in the 10?
So that gives Tim Criss 181 through the 9th frame. And now, as we look at Criss, he can contemplate as Wichita State's All-American, Rick Steelsmith, is up. Strike working.
Very interesting if he strikes here in the 9th.
dirtiest strike yet today.
Steelsmith a bit confused the first 3 frames, made a terrific adjustment on his pair. Go strike solid 10, strike solid 10. Now has put himself in position where he can strike out, get 2 more strikes and a 9 count, and lock out Tim Criss, who seemed impregnable the first 9 frames.
A lot of international experience as an amateur bowler. Won the Masters as an amateur in Niagara Falls.
The Masters is a match game tournament. It's not a total pin tournament. So if you've won that, you know what the situation is. And right now he's put himself in a position to strike out and shut out Tim Criss.
What performance by Rick Steelsmith.
On most occasions, I'd say this is just about a lock. However, this week, so many times I've seen a guy need 7, 8, 9 pins to lock up a match and get less. So it's not a guarantee. Steelsmith needs 9 or better to win. .211, we have a potential tie. Tim Criss must strike 3 times for a tie. And what a terrific break Steelsmith got there. Watch this pin action. You see the bucket, the 2-4-5-8 standing. He gets a kick from the head pin coming back and knocking the 8 out, tripping out the 5. So Tim Criss stands on the approach. We haven't had a tie all year long. 3 strikes brings about a tie and a 2-frame rail off.
And that's what he needs. 2 strikes to tie.
A pinch wide, leaves a 2-pin. Rick Steelsmith comes from behind to win match 1.
There it is, 201, 211 for Steelsmith. This ABC Sports presentation of the Professional Bowlers Tour will continue after these messages and a word from our ABC stations.